record now. That way we don't miss any goodies.
Cool. We weren't recording that story, huh?
That's correct.
Perfect.
Yeah. You don't have to relive that unless you want to.
Perfect. I'm good.
All right. So now we can just...
Welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of the Not Salty podcast. Yes, we made it to season 2. That's pretty cool. I'm your host, John Bell, and as always, I'm joined by my good friends and co-host, Kristen Skeevers and Mike Fenton. In this episode, we talk to our friend Jarrod Harper. Jarrod is now a thriving realtor in the Morgantown and Deep Creek Lake areas, but in his previous career, he played for the NFL. Yes, listeners, he is a local kid who fell in love with the sport, trained his butt off, practiced, studied hard, and made it to the big show. It can be done. The best word I can think of to describe Jarrod's journey is inspiring. In my career, I've met a lot of inspirational people, but Jarrod is at the top of the list. I've gotten to know him pretty well over the past few years, and he is an invaluable member of our team. When you first meet him, you can tell right off the bat that he is genuine about who he is. He loves his family, he loves what he does, he loves life in general, and he completely lights up when you talk about the game of football. Getting to know something he was salty about was pretty hard to do, but we did it. Listen in. Mike, hit the intro. Here we go with season 2, episode number 1. And Kristen, thanks for coming back.
Yeah.
Mike, good to see you.
Pleasure.
Jarrod, what's up, man?
What's up, John? Appreciate you guys having me on.
So, to set this thing up, you're obviously an amazing real estate agent these days. You're selling in Morgantown, West Virginia. Garrett County, Deep Creek Lake is how we got to know you. You're licensed with Rayleigh Realty. We definitely want to talk about football. You
Absolutely.
played for the NFL. Before we get started, I've been wanting to ask you this question for a while. Where do you get your haircut?
So, I go to Diamond Cuts in Morgantown.
All right, I got to find that place. I get my haircut at Walmart.
Will they do his hair?
Always
Like, do I have to make an appointment?
Yeah. No, I can introduce you to the owner, Andrew Blaney.
All right, so you always got the perfect haircut going on, and I don't know where that is. So let's put a plug in for Diamond Cut, and I got to go meet him.
For sure.
Kristen saw me this morning, and this is legit. I was out of town last weekend. We were down in Leesburg, and I stopped into a Sports Clips to actually get my haircut right just for this show because I knew yours would look good.
So I'm actually leaving town tomorrow, going to Houston for the West Virginia-Houston game, and that's the reason why I got a haircut.
Are you playing in it?
I'm not. I wish. I wish. It'd be
Horns
fun.
down.
That'd be a good game to go to.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you make it to a lot of West Virginia games still?
I do. Any chance that I can go to a home game, I try to go to.
Before we get into real estate and all that stuff, I'm assuming you like talking about it. I played football in high school. It's been 25 years since I put pads on.
Because that's the same thing.
No, that's what I'm getting at. Like, football for my life was a blip of 4 years that happened 25 years ago, but it's still something I talk about all the time. You know what I mean? For you, you made it. Good for you. Like, it's freaking amazing. Every little kid, we're starting to get our kids more involved in sports, and everybody thinks about making pros. And I don't know the actual statistics, but it's very, very, very few people do. I was thinking about this earlier today. A question I wanted to ask you was, I remember, since Kristen just made fun of me, walking into high school games for the big high schools and feeling how intense that was and what it was like. What in the world is that like with the NFL?
I mean, so I think really college kind of shaped me and got me ready for what it was going to be like in the NFL. I mean, because you go from, we're from a small town.
Yeah.
You go to a high school game here and there's a few thousand people there, right?
Yeah.
Now you progress 4 years and fortunate enough to go to West Virginia, and now you play in front of 65,000, sometimes 100,000. It's crazy. Yeah. Right. So the first time I redshirted 2012, and I dressed for one game. My first game that I dressed for was against Baylor.
Okay.
It was like Stripe the Stadium. So, I'm in the locker room. We're getting ready to come out for pregame, and you can literally feel like the energy and the fans jumping up and down, and you can feel the stadium shaking. So like,
it is for you, or it's for the
it's
team.
crazy.
Yeah.
It is absolutely mind blowing. So definitely a dream come true for sure. But to fast forward now 4 years after that, and I'm playing preseason games in the NFL. It's kind of like I was already used to it, but now I'm at the biggest stage, the brightest lights, And so it was definitely something to.
And the competition's legit. Like, I can't imagine what it's like. And I jumped way too far ahead right there with that question. But start us off, because you hit on it. You grew up in a small town. How did you do it? Well, I mean, walk us through that. You obviously, did you play before high school, or was high school your first step?
Started playing when I was 5 years old.
Okay.
Pee-wee. Playing, let me think. 5 years old, I started, let me think. Was I playing flag football then? Or was I playing tag football?
I was having this conversation with somebody else. It's an issue that's going on right now. It's debatable because kids start so young, and they start playing with pads so young that then by the time they get to high school, they're kind of worn out.
Yeah.
And I remember I started playing flag football when I was in 5th or 6th grade, whatever it was.
So 5 or 6 years old is when I put the pads on.
Okay.
We'll just go with that.
5 or 6 years old
is when I put the pads on, playing Pop Warner Pee-wee football for the Frostburg Cougars.
Okay.
So, like, my love.
That's pretty legit.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years old. Okay.
And then
I was learning how to walk.
From that point forward, like, I instantly fell in love with the game.
Okay.
Became like overly obsessed with it and knew every single NFL player, college player, what team they played for, when they got drafted. So it was kind of like an obsession for me. And I knew the vehicle that, what football could do for me if, I really bought into it and, made my mind up to, try to use this to get me to college. That was my first goal.
Okay.
So my parents didn't have to pay for college. Didn't want my parents to pay for college. And then my dream was to be able to play in the NFL and be able to provide for my family and retire my parents. That was my goal.
Okay.
So that drive is kind of what just kept me going, through the highs, the lows, the injuries and stuff like that. And then my uncle, I come from a football family, I would like to say. So cousins had a ton of success in high school.
Yeah.
Malin Harper was one. That was back when like Andre Pope was at Fort Hill, and, Bell, it was like Bell, Allegheny, and Fort Hill were like the three big
that area for being a country town has always had a big football following.
For sure.
Those high schools are big rivals, and that's always been huge.
Yeah, so watching those guys grow up and play as a kid, they were like my motivation too. And then my uncle had a short stint. He went to Frostburg State, is in the Hall of Fame, inducted into the Hall of Fame of Frostburg State. He had a short stint with the Cowboys. And so like football is kind of just running my family. And it was just a goal of mine to try to make it to the NFL and be able to have a longer career than what I did, and we'll kind of get into that later on in the podcast.
It's cool when you just said that. Like, I'm sure it's a common response, but when I asked you what got you into it, you basically said the love of the game, and I noticed you smiled right away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you've been doing this since you're 5, I should know, I don't know how old you are now, but you've been doing this for a long time, and you still smile about the love of the game, and you get ready to go to a game this weekend.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, probably a lot of athletes would say that was the thing. Like, you had those goals, but you also obviously liked playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, when I say I was obsessed with it, like, there were a few kids in my class that when I would wake up in the morning, I would work out, like in high school. When I got to high school, I would wake up, work out in my parents' basement, then go to school, work out. Fourth period was like our team period. So, like, I was literally obsessed with the entire process. And I think anything that you do, just even aside from sports, you have to be obsessed with the process. You have to fall in love with the process and not really worry about the end goal, because the end goal will come as long as you continue to work hard.
As long as you put the effort in.
That's what I was going to ask you. I feel like to compete on the world stage in anything, nobody's there that's not obsessed, right?
Right, exactly.
I mean, have you ever met a professional football player? Yeah.
No.
Or anybody, right?
So, and as a parent, that's where I think sports come into play. And we have dreams. My kids are great little athletes now, but who knows where it'll go, right? But if I'm picking something for them to get obsessed with, if I'm picking something to get into, I want it to be sports. You know, I'm not pushing them into any sports. They like soccer, and that's their thing they're getting into. And as a parent, that's great. I want them to be obsessed with that. As you're growing up, you're going to do something. What a better thing than to have your kid come home and work out in between time off. You know what I mean? It's a good thing to do. So you started off playing when you were younger, made it to high school, really got the bug. Here's a question I was wanting to ask you too. I've noticed with my kids growing up, there's always a couple stars on the team. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You've got kids play on the team, and you can coach them, and you can whatever. But then there's always these couple kids that really shine, that actually get it, that just have the athletic ability, and that athletic ability seems to take you so far. But at some point, you've actually got to learn the game too. Like, when did that switch over in your head? Like, looking at you, I'm going to assume you've always been athletic, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that lately, because I'm sure you've always been athletic because you put the work in. You hit the gym, you do your stuff. When did you actually learn the game? When did that start clicking and be like, oh, this is what I've
like
got?
strategy?
That's a good question, John. And I'll be honest with you, it was college.
Okay.
So, your God-given athletic abilities, they'll take you so far, right?
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to where it got me to college. But now once I get to college, everyone in the locker room and every opponent that you're going to play against is just as good, if not better than you.
Yeah.
So
you've already weeded the other ones out. By the time you get there, it's exactly. It's legit.
Yeah,
it's
so
real.
That's where like the preparation, and I really learned to break down the game and learn the game from an X's and O's standpoint versus just being able to go out and line up and put my shoulder pads on and helmet and play football. So
what was your position?
Defensive back, safety. So in high school I played, in this area, we're not everyone
exclusive.
plays. Yeah, everyone plays every position or both sides of the ball, right? Like we're not in Texas.
There's not, for your average listeners that have been here before, there's just not a big enough pool of kids when you're growing up.
Okay.
I think it's a stretch. You might get thrown in as a nose guard. Hey, just go play, whatever. And that you've got to be ready.
And it's so funny because now I'm watching my cousin's kids. My cousin Keenan, his son KJ is now playing for the Cougars.
Okay.
And it's so funny because, like you said, like you throw him on the offensive line, but like I know, when KJ grows up, he's not going to play offensive line.
Yeah.
Like he's going to be a smaller kid. He's probably going to play one of the skill positions. So, so college definitely was when I learned the X's and O's, and that's what helped me really become a better football player. Because scheme will take you, if you can kind of break down and know what the offense is going to come at you on certain situations, 1st and 10, 2nd and 10, 3rd and short, that's going to allow you to play a lot faster. And I wouldn't say I was a fast kid or a fast football player, but learning the game and learning the X's and O's will allow someone to play a lot faster.
I remember growing up when we were playing, there was a guy named Buster Combs. He was on our team. And again, this has been 25 years ago, but I always just remember he could see things that almost seemed like before they happened.
Yeah, so like pre-snap reads, yeah.
Yeah, he had that ability, and maybe he didn't, maybe studied real hard to get there, but I just always remember he just always had that. And I guess by the time you get to college, you're weeding out everybody. By the time everybody has
Everyone has
all
it
of a sudden.
there.
So then your competition is hard. And then the other thing I've seen just watching from the outside is you've got these kids who are great in high school. You're great in high school, but you have your parents there with you. You have some sort of structured background, whatever. Then all of a sudden you go to college, and you went to WVU. You went to the University of West Virginia.
Yep.
All of a sudden your parents aren't there.
Yeah,
so you got to make it to practice on your own.
Exactly.
And by the way, your classes are actually getting legit too. You're not taking pre-algebra, you're taking calculus or whatever.
Time to grow up.
That transition seems to be a really hard transition. You've got these kids who have the athletic ability and they're shining. Then they're going to make it to college, but then that's a big step there too. And
for sure.
How was that transition for you?
So
Morgantown's a big school. It's not like you went to a little school. That's a huge school. Huge football school.
Yeah, looking back on it, my journey, even though West Virginia was my dream school.
It was? Growing up here, that's where you wanted to go? Okay.
As soon as I got offered my junior year, I committed on the spot. I shut down my recruitment, and that was that. So
junior year of high school, you were already accepted or committed to University of West Virginia.
Yeah.
That's Virginia University. You can't say it wrong again.
West Virginia
I'm so sorry. That's the second time.
Kristen got her master's degree there, so she can correct me.
In my undergrad.
In journalism. She's the smart one.
Anyway.
All right, so you already committed to it in your junior year of high school, so you knew that's what you were going, and you just had to make it through one more year and to get there.
And that was nerve-wracking in itself because, you see it all the time. Kids go out and get hurt, and now,
you start playing differently.
The recruiting game is from whenever I was going through getting recruited versus now kids going through getting recruited. I feel like kids are more safe now. God forbid they go out and get hurt, and they're already committed to a school where back then it was way different. So, I know people that had Division I offers. One person that comes to mind, and again, I mentioned him early, was Andre Pope from Fort Hill. He was a big-time recruit coming out of Fort Hill, coming to Maryland. And when he tore his ACL his senior year, everyone pulled their offer. So that was kind of like nerve-wracking for me going in. Yeah, like I could focus now and just enjoy the last year of my high school career, not, outside of football. Just could, be a high school kid and not worry about recruitment and going on visits and, picking up the phone call because coaches are calling. I could just enjoy the game and enjoy the process. But it was nerve-wracking to think like, okay, what if I go out and get hurt my senior year? Is West Virginia still going to validate my scholarship? Which, luckily enough, I had that conversation, and God forbid if something did, they were going to honor it.
It's still in the back of your mind, and it's probably in the back of your mind on every play.
You still want to go to school.
Exactly.
Right?
So how do you go about recruiting? Like do people approach you on your junior year, or are you like, I want to play college football, I'm putting myself out there? Like, did you have like someone that helped you with recruiting? Because my cousins...
You played in college. How did it happen? How did it work out for you?
I was recruited.
Okay.
By a flyer in the dorm. Anyway, I know now football players, they'll have like cards that has like all of their stats, and like the parents will be in the stands with these cards, handing like business cards, handing them out to like scout. Yeah, that's what they're doing now. So like I'm just curious. I mean, not that long ago, like what it was like. Like, how do you even like get started in the recruitment
They didn't have
process?
Wikipedia when you were in high school,
right? So and that's the thing too, is like the recruiting aspect has changed so much. So to backtrack, when I got to high school, like again, I knew what I wanted to do. So fortunate enough, I had my parents that they paid for someone to come. Well, the team would video all of our games, right? So then we hired, my parents hired someone to go down and basically break down all the film, and then throughout the year would collect that and would make my highlight tape at the end of the year. Oh. So I would put out a mid-season highlight tape, midway through 6 games into the season, just to get something out there to coaches so they could see and try to get on the radar and watch my progress throughout the rest of the season. And then at the end of the year, I would put out my finished highlight film.
Was it on a VHS?
So it was on DVDs.
I'm the age it was VHS. Yes. We had my dad up in the stands with the big thing sitting on his shoulder and taking the VHS. We could make 3 of them, but nobody watched it. Anyway.
Yeah. So nowadays I think it's so much more accessible for anyone to go and be able to get recruited. You have Huddle, which is huge now with college coaches, and being able to upload your film to Huddle. And then Huddle, every college coach in America has access to that. So they can go on and watch and basically evaluate players that way.
Can you go viral on Huddle?
Yeah, for sure. And that's another thing that you say go viral. Yeah. Now you have social media. So like you see it all the time now. Like, ESPN pulls clips from a high school game, or, TikTok, you see a guy, go crazy in a game, basketball game, whatever it is, whatever sport, and they go viral that way. So the recruitment piece has definitely changed drastically in the short 11 years since I, got recruited. But pretty much, I was just lucky enough that I had parents that would pick me up and drive me to Virginia for camps, or South Carolina for camps, or Maryland, like basically all up and down the East Coast. Yeah. So I would camp out like my freshman and sophomore year and junior year, go to all the different camps. And that's kind of, how the snowball started to roll, and it kind of took off from there.
Those camps are kind of in the process that my kids are in now, but for soccer. And it's neat. You go there and you meet other parents, and there's kids galore.
Yeah, everywhere.
We were at one this weekend in D.C., and there was a family there from basically upper New York, right below Canada. They drove 8 or 9 hours to bring their kid there just for the level of competition. And these kids are 11 years old. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think that opens it up. Well, you tell me. That seems to open it up because you've got the more people you have to play with, the better athletes you're going to be against, the more it opens your world up. And the other thing I think it teaches people how to do is how to lose. Like to not pick on my daughter. She had a great weekend. Okay, we had a 3-game weekend. She lost every game. Yeah. Okay, but she played in a bracket that was way higher than she was before. They got their butts kicked, but they held their own. You know what I mean? Actually, didn't get their butts kicked. They lost 2-0, 1-2, and 0-0, whatever it was.
But the growth that they're experiencing, taking those losses and playing against the better competition is only going to help them.
At that age, that's important.
Yeah, especially at that age.
Sure, I want her to win, but in a roundabout way, I don't care if she wins. Right. I was happier she played at that level, got playing time, and met some other people. And Soccer's different too. Where your football camps like this, soccer, they just pull people in. And usually there's kids you know, but not always.
Yeah.
You know, like the kid from Canada or from New York, nobody knew her. Think about this little 11-year-old girl coming down, getting thrown in a game with a team she didn't know, going out there holding her own. Yeah. And I mean, that's a big learning lesson for a kid.
It's nerve-wracking too for a kid. I can remember, going back to, me traveling to camps, I used to always try to get my teammates, my high school teammates, like, hey, come to this camp with me. And, you can't make everyone have the same goals or aspirations as you. So most of the time I was just myself going to the camp, and I didn't know anyone. And it was just like, okay, let's go, ball out and see what happens.
I made it to Gettysburg College for a tryout camp, and Kristen wants to make fun of me. I would have never made it anyway. I broke my arm real bad, and that was it. But Gettysburg, I got there, and I was invited to the camp, and I was so far down the list, I think I was the last person I got invited. And I have a very big head, and the first, physically, the very first day I showed up, they didn't have a helmet to fit me. So I don't remember if I was a junior or senior at the time. And made it to Gettysburg. I was all excited, got there, and the first day I had pads on, but no helmet. I had to stand there and wait around for a helmet to come.
So my cousin went to Gettysburg, and I did see they have a giant helmet encased there. I think that was your helmet.
That's the one they brought in for me, and
never used again.
Yeah, it had one little scuff on it. So we noticed before the podcast we had you and Fenton race in the parking lot, and I was surprised he beat you.
I'm pretty quick. I am.
He is.
I'm like a hobbit. I'm real low to the ground.
So speed was your thing. That's like.
So what is? I'm not big on football. What is a defensive safety? What does that actual position do in the game?
So defensive back, it can be broad. Typically, we're covering the receivers.
So you're on offense.
Defense.
You're on defense.
So we tackle.
Hence defensive back.
Yeah, so if you look at the defense...
That was for our listener out there, not
next
for
time
me.
you watch a game, Kristen, watch the defense and look for the back player.
Okay.
Or the two back players.
The ones that are running side to side?
Very behind, the back part of the defense.
Okay.
The last two players. So you have two players on the outside, those are corners.
Okay.
And then the back two are typically safeties.
Okay.
So that's the position that I played, was the...
So you're trying to get the guy that gets the ball that's running.
I'm the last resort for between... me in the end zone. So I'm the last line of defense, basically.
So you're trying to catch the really fast offensive guy that's running full speed.
That's catching the ball.
But you've got to read where the ball's going.
Exactly.
So it's a hard position. You have to be smart. You have to know how to read the plays.
We have to be able to, call the defense and get the, checks. And
you have to be fast because once you figured out you need to get there.
Yep.
And you got to be tough because once you get there, you better tackle them.
Right. Exactly. You're going to be getting embarrassed.
Yeah.
Were you ever scared to tackle somebody? Like, were you going at no?
I can't imagine. By the time you've been doing it for your whole life, you probably used to.
I would feel bad. Like, I'm so sorry.
How do you feel about pass interference? Like, how is that? I feel like every time I hear somebody say pass interference, like nobody agrees about what it is and how it works. And I'm also ignorant. So
yeah. So I've always said this, and I still stand by this today.
Yeah.
The refs take care of the offensive players, right? So, like, if it's even close or questionable, they're going to call pass interference.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So, again, do I always agree with it? No. Do I think there's some BS calls? For sure. And that's a big thing that can really change a game is,
But that's their job. They're trying to err on the side of caution for the receivers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's part of the game. I mean, that's a crappy part of the game, but I mean, that's part of a game. You got to go with their decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and you're never going to agree with it, but that's part of the game.
And that decision can drastically affect the game, especially depending upon the situation or how late in the game it is.
Dude, that was cool. You said you never hesitated, or did you say you were never afraid to tackle something?
Yes, no. So, I mean, that's the thing is I was never afraid of anything. Yeah, your adrenaline's high, but nerves for sure. Like, pregame nerves, I was nervous before the game, but as soon as like you the first hit or the first tackle or the first play, like all those nerves are out the window. Now it's like, okay, this is
so I was in a band in high school, and we played a lot of shows, and we wound up winning this Battle of the Bands. We opened up for like Disturbed and Killswitch Engage, a couple of big metal acts because I was in a metal band. We played in front of like 10,000 people. It was nice. I got out of the band. I got a full-time job working as a chef. And then, when I moved up here, I joined another band, and I was a bunch of guys never really got on stage before.
Yeah.
and they're looking at me, they're like, "Oh, I'm so nervous." I'm like, "Dude, it never goes away."
Yeah.
It does. That pre-game nerves,
it'll never go away.
Never go away.
And they always say too, like, if you're not nervous, you don't care.
Sure.
So
fair enough.
You know, I would like, you know, when I got older and realized like what nerves were. Now I'm probably 7, 8 years old. I'm like, Dad, like, why do I have these butterflies in my stomach? Is what I used to always call it. My dad was like, well, because you're nervous and it's because you care.
You can learn to mask it, but you're always going to be nervous.
Exactly, yeah. So anyone that really, I truly think that, you know, they're not, if you ask a player, you know, or you know, a professional athlete, college athlete, if they're nervous before a game and they say no, I would
challenge it.
I would challenge it. And it's not because, you know, nervous could mean a lot of different things, like they're scared or whatever, but it's not because they're scared. I think they are nervous, and it's just because the love of the game, and you know, once that first play happens,
I think it's because like you can tell yourself a lot of things in your mind, and your mind is a very powerful thing. But so is the body.
Yeah, your body knows what it's about to go
exactly.
through.
Exactly. You could sit there and say, "I'm not scared. Why am I feeling this way?"
Well, sure. It is a team sport, obviously. But when it comes down to that last tackle, when it comes down to you missing that last tackle, it's you.
And I've been in that position before in high school, college. You know, I've missed tackles. I'm not. You know, there's no perfect game. Right, everyone's going to.
There's no way you're not going to have nerves.
Yeah.
There's no way your adrenaline's not going.
Yeah,
I guess in baseball they have perfect games, right? That's the thing.
Oh, their adrenaline.
I mean, unless you're a pitcher, and
the pitchers,
the pitchers have perfect games.
Like
you
sometimes
throw a no-hitter.
Yeah.
I remember a thing I had to get over. I believe this was 9th grade. Right before I would hit somebody, I'd always close my eyes, and I didn't realize I was doing that. And then once and I would miss tackles all the time. You know what I mean? That split second, like where I'm getting ready for impact, I closed my eyes. That took me a ways to get over, and then once I did that, I did a whole lot better, which still wasn't good enough. But point being is, there's all these little quirks, and I don't know if you ever had that problem or not, but I think that comes back to just natural athleticism. Like some people just don't think about that. Like you go out there, you've got your game face on, and this is what it is. And like to Kristen's point, I don't think in any game you ever have a second where you feel bad about hitting the person.
No.
You may afterwards, like 2 hours later, you calm down, like, oh man, I hope that guy's okay. But just in that moment it's going on, that's not in your head.
Yeah,
it's a different switch that turns off.
I don't know why I always imagined football being like old school war. You know, you have like two,
like
you have two
gladiators.
sides. Yeah, exactly. They're just running at it, you know what I mean?
Crazy.
So that's why I can't imagine. There's probably not a whole lot of hard feelings in the moment.
No, not at all. I mean,
did you ever get in a scuffle?
Too.
For sure. I mean, I think that's just more so the emotion of the game.
Yeah.
What's your wingspan? 6 foot? Like you got long arms.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm just guessing.
The room is too small.
Mike, be careful over there. But, you know, okay, but then that's a point to bring back. That's a really good arm span for Garrett County growing up. You know, once you make it to college, everybody
like
probably
that.
that's a whole different mentality you've got to use.
For
so
sure.
When you were at WV, did you live in the dorms?
Freshman year, everyone had to live in the dorm.
Oh, okay.
What dorm were you in?
Pierpont in the summer, because as football players, we moved in June, I think. Okay. So then after summer was over, I moved over to Lincoln Hall.
Okay. I was in
Lincoln Hall was like the nicer dorm.
Yeah. I was in Towers.
Okay.
That's got to be a high of all highs. Okay. So
you were right next to Lincoln Hall. Lincoln Hall was in the middle of Pierpont.
Yeah.
So you start off 5 years old, put your pads on. You're like, I'm going to go play for the NFL, retire my parents, whatever. First step is going to go to college, not make my parents pay for it.
Yeah.
And then you make it.
Yeah.
Like, what's that first day like? I mean, you're nervous, but there you go. That's probably why you don't get nervous on the field. You're going to be nervous that day. Like that's legit. You're going there and
now that was a different type of nervous, just because, you know, my route to the NFL was different than a lot of people's. You know, everyone can get to the league a different way. You can get drafted and you go undrafted. You can be a tryout player and then they sign you as an undrafted free agent. So I went undrafted, signed a free agent deal with Jacksonville. So nothing was guaranteed for me. So every day, like, you know, I had to bring my hard hat and go to work to hopefully make the 53-man roster before the season. That was definitely a little nerve-wracking, but at the same time, though, you know, being in the position that I'm in, you know, I couldn't really let that weigh too much on my mental. I just had to go and just, you know, at the end of the day, it's just football. And now you're just playing at, the highest stage.
Did you have a preference on team?
I didn't. I just wanted an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, I'm sure.
You
Absolutely.
You just want the opportunity.
I'm just curious because, you had to move to Florida then, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
I'm a Ravens fan, and then obviously now I'm a Jacksonville fan, but growing up, I was always a diehard Ravens fan.
Yeah.
My senior year of college is when the Ravens came to Baltimore, and I had a job pushing the button in the elevator. I was security, but I literally stood in the elevator and I pushed the button for the players' wives right up and down.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Like
you probably see
I didn't meet any players, but I met all their wives, and it was. Let me tell you what, that was fun. Like,
for sure.
I stood there, and my job was to keep my mouth shut and push buttons. I think there were only 3 floors, and it was great.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that is cool. Yeah.
You've worked security at Steelers games, right?
No. So I was going to bring this up. So I have a friend that's in the Steelers franchise, and he will invite me once in a while to be on the field, right? And let me tell you what, that is the most intense thing there. I was trying to lead in that a minute ago. So I'm there as a spectator, okay? I'm there because my friend invited me to stand there and be quiet and mind my own business, but like stand on the field during the game. It's intense.
It is.
Just standing there is intense.
Like, to this day, and it's so funny, like, Brittany, I'm able to take my son to the West Virginia games, and, we can go and tour the facility.
That was a cool little video you guys put up. That was awesome.
So, like, back to that video, Britt's like, we go out, and she's looking at my arms for whatever reason. She's like, you have goosebumps. And I'm like, do you not feel the energy in the stadium?
Right.
So, like, to your point, John, like, it's a crazy feeling. Even, years later, I'm not playing, but, it just brings back all the memories of, whenever I was there. So it's pretty cool for sure.
The thing what Kristen was leading into. So the guy I worked for back at the Ravens, it was my fraternity did it, kept getting bigger and bigger contracts, and he actually did security for the Super Bowl when Steelers played Arizona and Tampa.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Whatever year it was. So I remember I was at the office next door, and his name's Jim, and Jim called me up, and I remember this being like a Thursday, and he was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know, work. What are you doing?" And he goes, "How fast can you get to Tampa?" And I was like, "I don't know, what's in Tampa?" Like I wasn't even thinking about the Super Bowl, right? He said, "Well, get down here," and I called Noel. Noel was working in Cumberland that time, and I feel like we left the next morning and went down there. So that's the only Super Bowl I've been to, and he stuck us up in the. Thank you, Jim. That was not to say stuck us. It was very good to get us there. Put us up in the section of the Super Bowl where all the friends and family and all this stuff was. It was amazing. I mean, just that's the only Super Bowl I've been to. I've been to probably more Steelers games than Ravens games.
Okay.
My wife picks on me all the time. I'm honestly not sure, Scott, if you're listening, I'm 100% Pittsburgh, but I'm honestly not 100% sure where I am because I grew up with that. I grew up went to college in Baltimore, but then living here, I like the Steelers a lot too. But anyway, it is just even being a spectator, being in the game, being in the nosebleed seats, much less being on the field, much less you take it to the next level. You're standing with your pads on and you're going in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's got to be great.
It definitely was. And, I'm super blessed and fortunate to have had the opportunity to, go and live out my childhood dreams, even though it was short-lived or a lot. Yeah, definitely wasn't as long as I had expected to play. I was young. I was 26 whenever I officially retired from playing football. So, but no, definitely fortunate, blessed, and thankful for sure.
I heard you say that one time before that it was short-lived, and I don't know how many years you were in the NFL, but
just one.
Okay, you made it.
Yeah,
dude. Whatever. If you made it to one game, man, you made it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's every kid's dream.
Yeah, that was one of the probably hardest things for me is just the fact that from 5 years old till I was 25, all I knew was football. So when that injury happened, and I was forced to basically walk away from the game, trying to find a new identity. So it was tough, but I'm super fortunate.
What exactly happened?
Suffered my 8th concussion.
Oh, are you comfortable talking about it?
Yeah. So last preseason game, all the stars are seeming to align for me. 2 years prior to me getting there in Jacksonville had drafted a safety in the 3rd round out of Louisville. And they ended up actually releasing him. And I was an undrafted player. So now, during training camp, right before that last preseason game, they had released him. And, I had guys like, Jalen Ramsey, Barry Church, AJ Bouye.
You're taking hard hits.
Who were veterans.
Or giving hard hits, whichever one you're doing. It's hard. Yeah,
for sure. So, they were veterans in the league who, told me, like, Jarrod, as long as you go out and handle business like you've done all preseason and the first 3 preseason games, you're going to make the 53-man roster. So, I go out first play, we're playing in Atlanta, and I go out to go make a tackle. My own player, like, I lay out to make a tackle, and my own player comes and, like, blindsides me, so I didn't even see it. Hit me in the side of the head, and I was out cold.
That was it.
Oh.
And that was it, yeah.
So
took me out on the stretcher.
Is that an NFL rule? Like, if you have 8 on record?
So really, it's kind of like the concussion amount, I don't really know what the number is, but it's more so, I think for me, what hurt me was the fact that I was an undrafted guy. Yeah. Had I been drafted higher, they would have had much more money invested into me. So,
got it.
But then again, too, you look at the game now and, you read about all these head injuries and stuff like that. So it's like,
it's scary.
Where do you draw the line at?
Sure.
You're really taking a gamble. So, and still to this day, I still have migraines. I still, my moods are kind of up and down. So, like, I definitely 100% think that it's from my history of concussions.
Yeah.
My memory's not as sharp. So, yeah, no, it's...
26 is an age where you start getting a conscious, too.
Yeah.
You start thinking about things. You're like, is it a good idea? You know what I mean?
Worth it?
At 18, if you would have gotten your 8th concussion, like, screw it, I'm fine.
Right.
You know what I mean? 26, you're starting to think about it. I'm assuming you're getting other life goals.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a man at that point. You know what I mean? You start thinking about things differently.
Did you move back home to Morgantown? Or how did you wind up?
Yeah,
so when I got hurt, I was on injured reserve the whole season. So they brought me off. That was the year that we went to the AFC Championship, beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs. And then the Patriots beat Jacksonville. So that we had an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl my rookie season. So I was on IR, injured reserve. Basically, you're still part of the team. You still do everything with the team, but you're not playing, you're not practicing.
Yeah.
You're just getting healthy. So probably, I want to say, somewhere between like 8 and 10 weeks, I got cleared. They kept me on IR for the rest of the season just because we were so far in. And then everything seemed to align, like they were going to bring me back. We had end of the year meetings. Coaches were very positive with, where I was at from a health standpoint. Where how far I came since I first got to Jacksonville, from a football player standpoint. And everything looked like they were going to bring me back in the off season. And then come March, my agent got the call. They were releasing me, and it was pretty much because of my history with concussions. And so then after that, several teams had reached out to my agent, inquiring about, seeing where I'm at with everything as far as health goes, how I'm doing, how I'm progressing, where I'm training at. A lot of teams showed interest, but everything came back to, okay, well, it's a gamble just because of my history with concussions. So it's like anything now with concussions and head injuries, you get one, now you're more susceptible to get, other concussions. The first concussion they say is like the hardest one to get. And then after that, it gets easier and easier as you.
So how old were you with that first one?
That's the thing, is like I have 8 recorded that I know of. So like now we go back to Pee-wees, and at that age, you have coaches that were saying, "Oh, you're okay. You got your bell rung. Go get some water and come back in." Well, okay. Well, did I have a concussion then?
Yeah.
In middle school, same thing. High school, same thing.
How do you feel now? Because your son's walking.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure you would want him to play football.
Yeah.
So as a dad now, thinking about that.
I get that question all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Everyone asks me, like, Jarrod, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to force? I was actually just talking to one of my clients today about this.
Yeah.
Because they did their own due diligence, and I never go out of my way to say anything about football or my history or whatever. Mm-hmm. I just say I played at West Virginia. But then he called me and he was like, Jarrod, so you played in the NFL? I was like, well, yeah. Went through that story, and he's like, well, you have a son. Do you want him to play football? And I was like, I do, but I'm not going to force the game onto him, sure. Right?
But are you going to be worried about him getting concussions at 5 years old?
Absolutely. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, like that. I feel like with your history, like, so much more than an average parent.
But what are you going to do? Well, okay, so
I don't know. That's what I mean.
No,
it's a tough position.
Get a MIPS helmet.
Are you going to sit the kid on the couch all day long? No. There is an argument to it.
Yeah. So I mean, I 100%, me being the person that I am and having done the things that I was fortunate enough to do, I do want him to follow in my footsteps, but at the same time, if he doesn't want to play, I'm not going to force him to play football, right? And I have so many friends that I played sports with in high school, football, basketball, baseball, that their parents were so hard on them that they eventually got burnt out. And that's not what I want to do with him. I hope and pray he follows in my footsteps.
Well, nobody forced you to play ball, right?
No, absolutely
exactly.
not.
You loved it.
And that might be why you did so well.
That's where I'm at with Lucille. My daughter's name's Lucille. She's about the same age. And, of course I want her to play music. And fortunately, she loves it so far.
Yeah.
But it's like, I also want her to have some sort of sport that she wants to play. It doesn't matter. I don't even really care what it is. I didn't play sports growing up. So, I was always out of shape my whole life.
Yeah.
I never had something that I focused on that encouraged exercise and working out and stuff like that. So I want her to have that too. But I'm in the same boat as you because music's my passion is, if she does want to do it, she's got all the resources. Like she can do anything she wants. But until then, it's a love. Like it should be a love. It should be a passion.
And they should gravitate towards it, naturally, not,
I feel like it's a big waste of time, of somebody's life.
I think that's why little kids should just
don't love doing.
They should just play tons of sports. Like you should just have your 4-year-old doing soccer and t-ball because like I did I did everything. I did not like dance. I did not like softball. So and I did not like soccer. But I stuck with basketball, like volleyball, horses and stuff. But I have this discussion with my husband all the time because we're like, well, if we have kids, like I want them to play sports.
Absolutely.
I want them to have, and not even just like the physical aspect, but it's like the teamwork.
The
knowing that you have to show
100%.
up, like showing up on time, like being there, like understanding that it's not all about you. Like I just feel like it's such good values.
You're right.
He didn't play sports in high school. Like he didn't play any sports, and so he doesn't agree with me.
Bear.
I know. He's like he doesn't agree with me, and we have this debate all the time. And I'm like, no, if we have a kid, they need to at least try. Like I want them to do sports. So we have this debate all the time.
I always throw this disclaimer in there because it's 100% true. If you want real estate advice, call me. If you want advice about being a parent, sorry. So here's my advice about a parent is I'm doing the best I can. Okay.
Yeah.
And you learn as you go. And I was talking to kids about this the other day. Everybody talks about it. I think it's a Facebook meme or whatever I saw. But everybody always talks about you watching your kids grow up. I always joke that the kids are watching me grow up too. You know what I mean? So point being is I've found this out. If you push your kids to do something, they're going to rebel and not do what you want them to do. So let him find it. Let's hope he likes football, and then it's your decision if you're comfortable. Your family's decision, comfortable to do it or not. And then from there, let them find what they like and encourage them. You know what I mean? It probably will be football for you because he likes to talk to you about it, and look how happy you get when you talk about it. For you guys, Steve or whatever, you guys are going to figure out what you want to do. Lucy is probably going to be music because you really like music, but let them follow their own thing, and then mostly just to encourage them. Now football's different. Mike, I doubt Lucy gets a concussion playing the guitar, but you never know what kind of band she's going to be in.
If she follows in my footsteps,
if she's opening for Disturbed, she might get a concussion in the pit.
Right? Yeah, you go to one of those crazy concerts, you might get one.
What are you gonna do?
I was thinking about that with concussions too. Like I know that I've had one concussion. If you listen to me talk, you're probably going to think it's probably 20. But the one that I remember I got was here snowboarding at the Wisp. I remember I fell down. I was knocked out, and I came to. I was by myself on the snowboard. I was in my dad's truck, and was driving home. And this might have been right at the beginning of cell phones or whatever. And I remember calling home, and I got in the truck and I was driving home. He got to me, and then I kind of started passing out again and called my dad, I think. But that's the only one I've known about. I bet you there's more.
Yeah, for sure. I would bet probably everyone in here has probably had a concussion.
I was going to say that something I don't know. It was like it was a reel, and it was a guy who was talking about concussions, and he was like, well, how many times have you seen stars, from getting a hit? And he was like, that's kind of along the lines
of
onset,
yeah.
So I've definitely seen stars.
I fell off a ladder when I was like 4.
Yeah, you probably definitely had a concussion.
Yeah, and that's the only one. Like I don't remember like a day or two, but I remember waking up on the couch. But I was like, I guess in the hospital for a day or something. But I had been safe. But my mom
was
like,
that's what your dad told you.
My mom was crazy about helmets. Like I wasn't allowed on my pedal bike without a helmet. Like I'm never allowed on my horse without a helmet. Never allowed to ski without a helmet. And I feel so strongly now about like people wearing helmets. And I'm like, I'm that stickler, you know.
100%.
A lot of people don't, but like, I'm not going to ski without my helmet. Like,
they make helmets.
You driving down the road in your truck.
my helmet. Like, someone could hit you at any moment while you could be the best skier in the world.
That's
and
a good
someone
point.
is going.
That's a good point.
Someone could hit. It happened to an agent in our office. He was literally teaching his daughter how to ski. He's on the ground. He's not even on
What's up,
skis.
Ben?
Yeah, I hope you're feeling better,
He's
Ben.
a listener.
And like somebody hit him from behind. He fell down. He got a concussion.
Wow.
And he was literally helping his tiny daughter learn how to ski, and someone nailed him
scary.
that hard.
Totally not his fault either. He's
No.
okay with it now, and it's in hindsight, it's kind of funny because he's okay. But it was horrible.
Yeah, he was down and
Sketchy.
out, and like that's So anyway, I'm like super team helmet, like all about.
Do you ski? Have you ever skied or anything?
Snowboarded.
Snowboarded. Well, so getting back to that, like, getting back to it, to get into it, like 20 years ago, snowboarding helmets didn't exist, and they were all clunky and whatever. Now they're really nice. Like, why would you not wear a helmet?
Yeah.
It keeps my head warm. I've got headphones in there. Like, I want to wear
headphones
my
in
God
there.
forbid.
Oh yeah, I have little pods for my
That's
helmet.
awesome.
Yeah. So were you scared to snowboard with football? Were you like terrified of getting
Oh,
injured?
yeah.
So here's the thing. So like a lot of people don't know this about me and probably wouldn't guess this. So I grew up like riding dirt bikes, 4-wheelers, go-karts, snowmobile. I had
You
all
did
of
grow
that.
up here, we knew.
Yeah. But like, you know, a lot of my friends that I went to college with, they're like, you did not ride a dirt bike. I was like, I swear.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like I'm an advocate for a helmet for sure. 100%.
You did. I always think too, if I was going to play NFL and I could pick, I would go south too. Like sometimes I think about even like college, like Notre Dame, it'd be amazing to play there, but good Lord, it's cold.
It's cold, right.
You know, and West Virginia, it gets cold too, but I mean, not quite as cold. Maybe.
Is there
At least
like-
you have half the season.
Oh, I love a cold West Virginia football game, the night game. Oh yeah.
Is there like
as long
legit?
as
But you're
I'm
not-
playing, but I don't
you're-
want to go sit and be a
You're
spectator at a
drinking
cold
beer
game.
Yeah, right,
and
right.
standing with gloves on.
I know, but you get to wear your cute little WVU gloves and your jacket, and
Is there like a legit home field advantage for like cold weather teams?
I think there's a home.
Gotta be.
100%.
I think no matter what, probably.
Yeah, I think
Well,
no matter
sure.
what but cold weather for sure. I mean, I just go back to, and we got smoked, but we played Oklahoma my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
They had a ton of talent, like Baker Mayfield, D.D. Westbrook, those guys that are still in the NFL. But they came to Morgantown, and pregame, we went out for pregame, and it was it was a cold night. Now, it was like November when we played. But, you know, there was no precipitation at all. We come in for maybe 10 minutes, and right before we run out into the tunnel, it's just pounding snow.
Oh.
Now, I thought like that would play hugely into our, you know, favor, our advantage, because we're used to it, and they're coming from Oklahoma, and it's still really nice down there in November. But I mean, like I said, we got our butts handed to us that game. And it wasn't pretty.
Pre-game from him in college is different than your pre-game, Kristen.
Yeah, I figured.
Dude, we were in the tunnel. I took Mike Kennedy with me one time. We got on the field, and we were in the Pittsburgh Stadium. We were in the tunnel, and I can't remember who it was. We were in the Pittsburgh tunnel. We were at, I think Jacksonville was there. I don't know. Anyway, and we were in the tunnel while the players were running past us. And Mike was literally standing there, boo, like booing him and all that stuff. And it was great. And I'm egging him on. I'm encouraging him too. And what do you think Mike is? 4'9"? Like Mike's not a very tall guy anyway.
He's at least
Sitting
5'5".
right here.
These people, not you.
I know.
But he actually is the same height as you.
I know. he
You
is.
forget how big the NFL players are. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Oh my gosh,
Especially
right?
with them in pads running
Yeah,
past.
yeah.
you.
So I'm 6 foot and I'm short, you know,
Yeah.
and so Mike's booing them, and I was so hoping this would happen. We were, I'm going to say 6 inches from any of them when they're running up the tunnel. All one of them had to do was drop their shoulder and I would have wiped him out. And they didn't do it. But
Again, not me.
probably because they were afraid to get sued or whatever. I was so hoping it would happen, and I was videotaping it all. But not videotaping on my phone. But anyway, no. Your point being is you forget how big these guys are. Like, were you like normal size? Because you're not a little guy.
That's it, like I'm probably normal size for a skill player, but now you're talking about an offensive line, and you know those guys are 6'5", 6'6". They're huge. So they put so much emphasis on, like, especially when the game has changed so much now, right? You see guys in the NFL that are 5'9". Like, I look at the I can't think of his name, but the Miami running back that has basically came on the scene and kind of just had a great year, and unfortunately he just hurt his knee last week, but like he's 5'9", but like those guys are, I can't even imagine being 5'9" in the NFL. Like for me, I'm average height, And
I mean, average height is 6 foot.
Yeah. But really, probably I would say 6'2" is probably like average height in
the whole team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like collectively. Yeah. And I can just remember, going to the doctors and getting measured, and they're saying, "Oh, well, you're 6'1", Jarrod." And then, when pro day came around and, NFL scouts are, measuring your hands and doing your wingspan and stuff. And they're like, "Oh, 5'11" and 3/4." And I'm just like,
what?
I've never heard 5'11". I've heard 5'11" since I was in high school.
That's some Harry Potter shit.
And like another person that comes to mind just because he was behind me doing his measurements is like Rasul Douglas. Just played last night on Monday Night Football. Starts for the Packers, plays cornerback. I think like one of the scouts said he was 6 foot, and Rasul is every bit of 6'2". But it's crazy. I don't know where.
So when you're at like the training, is that like the skill day where you have to do the sprints and like the jump?
Yeah, so like 40-yard dash.
Yeah. What was your best event there, and what was your least favorite?
Ooh. That's a good question. Probably my best drill, I would say, probably was my position work.
Yeah.
Just as far as what I do from a defensive backpedaling, breaking, catching the ball, doing different drills like that. Just because at that point I can really show you my athleticism.
Sure.
And I wouldn't say it's my least favorite, but one that I was probably the most disappointed in was my bench press, 225 bench press. I think I did like 14 reps, and all during training I was hitting 18, 19. So like I was
14 reps in a row?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So I was, but
I could probably break out one.
But you were saying for some reason that day.
I hit 14, and I'm like, wow, like I've never.
Yeah.
So I was.
What do most guys do on that?
On
the bench press?
For offensive line, defensive line, you're looking in the. Definitely, you better hit 20 reps, or else you're considered
of
probably
225.
weak.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
225.
For whatever reason, 225 is a big number. Like if you put that up, you know what I mean? That's a big thing. But then doing it 14 or 20 times in a row is a different story.
Yeah. I think really for that too, it just comes down to like you can be a really strong guy, but if you don't have muscle endurance, like while you're
that's
training, like your fatigue can weigh in.
Yeah.
I was at the
quick.
Carc the other day, and there's some kid, I should have remembered his name, full-grown man, I don't know who this guy is, for leg press was like 1,080 or something.
Shit.
I was really proud of myself. I was doing like 330 or something, and I was like,
Where did he even get? Is it like put the weights on, or is it like okay, all right?
So I was like, man, I should maybe enter this competition or something. I go look at the board, and I was like, no, dude, what? I mean, this kid was rocking like
the
1,000 pounds.
the Carc boards. I looked at the women's records because I was going to go for.
I don't think I would have beat the lady. I know I wouldn't have.
I'm going for the pull-up record. That's my goal.
Yeah,
because I don't think no, that's where I'm at now. But I'm shooting for 50.
Speaking of pull-ups, I used to love doing pull-ups.
Yeah.
And then I had 2 shoulder surgeries in college, and
you're like, you know what?
I hate
you can keep the pull-ups.
Yeah, just the full extension. I can't.
Ooh, people like this. How many surgeries have you had?
That's my thing. Is I see everybody doing like and it's they're no joke. I'm not saying that they're easy by any stretch of the means, but you see like the CrossFit pull-ups where they're just like and I'm like, I don't know, man.
I could never do that. My shoulders. I would.
Well, it's
I would take both my labrums again.
The kipping and doing like butterfly pull-ups. It's just a method to get it done faster.
It is, and again, there's to it, but like I'm more of like a
full extension.
Slow. You want to really restrict it, yeah.
So that's what.
All right,
Goggins.
People love to hear about surgeries.
Yeah.
How many you had?
I've only had fortunate enough, and I'm super blessed to have played as long as I have. I only had 2 really major surgeries, and they were both on my labrum and my shoulder.
Yeah,
that's it.
Oh, I tore the labrum in my hip.
You see, that
like
one's
twins.
Yeah, that's worse though.
Yeah.
Did you do it riding a horse?
No, I did it lifting actually, but
that's right.
I was literally warming up, so I was great warming up for squats. So I mean, my max was 300. I probably could do more, but I never failed a squat. You were not catching me failing a squat. That terrified me to bail out from something like that. So I never like reached my full potential. But anyway, I would warm up with the bar. I'd put on 10s, I'd put on 25s, I'd put on 35s. Like I did 50, 70 warm-up reps before I even started my set.
Yeah.
And I was squatting the bar, like sitting in the bottom, literally just warming up. And my hip just went, and I was like, ow. And I stood up and I was like, ow, ouch. And I like walked around a little bit and I was like, ow. Like
that's basically, that's what took you out though, right? Like, yeah.
Well, basically, I mean, he said like I'm fixed. Like I could go back to like Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
I'll just need a hip replacement a lot sooner. So I was like, okay, I'm good.
No such thing as what solutions, only trade-offs.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's cool about life. You learn stuff. I was thinking about your son. Like, so that day for you is over. You know what I mean? It was really cool. It's fun to talk about. You're probably going to do. We're going to your real estate career in a minute. You're doing great things on a different level. But now all of a sudden you get to relive it all through a different lens with your child.
Yeah.
You know, and let's hope it's football. Okay, maybe it's not. Maybe it's soccer. Maybe whatever he gets into. But you're going to get into that, and all of a sudden you become the coach. You know what I mean? You're life coach. You know, whatever sports he goes into, and I think that's what's cool about life. You're actually starting back over again on that level to put whatever spark in his eye and help him follow through with it.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's backtrack. So before I got into real estate, some of you, most of you probably know this. I went back on my master's and I started coaching.
Okay.
At West Virginia, coaching the defensive backs.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Always said that, you know, when I was done playing, because I was fortunate enough and, you know, lucky enough to have been able to be coached by some really good coaches, high school, you know, Pee-wees, high school, all the way up through. I had some really good coaches that, you know, to this day that I give a lot of credit to. And to see the effect that they had on me, that was something that drove me to want, or that I thought I wanted to get into the profession right now. Coaching at the Division I level is insane because of the amount of time that goes into
commitment.
it.
Yeah.
So, you know, really your players come before your family at that level, right? And that's the level that I wanted to coach at. I wanted to coach at the Division I level just because that's, you know, I played there, and to be able to help someone potentially accomplish the dream that I once had, was going to be the fulfilling
Huge
piece of it, right? But that's one thing that, you know, I thought I wanted to coach at that level, and just the amount of time that, you know, I was going to be spending away from my family, like that didn't sit right with me. So, you know, I sat down and Brittany and I kind of talked and weighed the pros and cons on, you know, if I stay in coaching versus if I get out, you know, the amount of time that I'll be able to have with my son. And right around whenever we were contemplating me making the decision whether I stayed or whether I came out, found out that she was pregnant.
No.
And so then, like, that's
a sign right there.
It was like a done deal, right?
Yeah.
So I you know, made the decision to get out of coaching, and, you know, I can still, looking back on it, you know, I made the right decision for sure. You can never, time is never enough, right? So I know that whatever sport Zaire decides to play, I'll get the same level of love coaching him as I would have gotten had I stayed in college and continued to coach.
Seeing the future, you will probably coach again. You'll coach him in whatever sport.
Some respect. Well, and what I was going to say is, you know, I to your success in real estate, how transferable is all that philosophy and all of those skills that you learned? So no matter what he decides to do, that's being a father is being a coach.
Absolutely, right? Yeah, for sure. So, like Kristen said,
that's so poetic.
Yeah, no, for sure.
We're going to put it on the picture over here.
Like Kristen was saying, you know, no matter what, she wants her kid to play some type of sport because of not because of the game that they're going to potentially be good at or not be good at, but because of the principles and what that game is going to teach you. So teamwork, accountability, discipline, hard work, you know, commitment. And those are all things that, you know, life after the sport, when you're done playing, that you can, you know, take with you and apply to whatever profession you decide to go in. And obviously real estate, it's a grind. We know that, right? Like if you're not working, you're not making any money. So, you know, I 100% truly believe that the skills and stuff that I was able to learn from playing football, I'm able to apply. And that's, you know, what's been able to help me have kind of, you know, early on success in my short real estate career so far.
Kristen, help me with the words, because it's not an addiction. What's the word I'm looking for? But I do feel like all this stuff is kind of addiction. I have it too. You know what I mean? So like I grew up playing sports.
It's like an obsession. Yeah.
I grew up playing sports and stuff, and I just can't do it anymore. Yeah. I do it for fun, you know what I mean? But I don't do it anymore. So then real estate became my obsession, and selling a house is like a win.
Yeah,
you know, the
absolutely.
deal falling apart is a lose.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons we're good at it is one of the biggest things when you lose is you pull yourself back up and do it again. You're not going to sell a house to every client. Remember me and you texting recently something about something negative that happened to you. And I was like, look, dude, that sucks. Get over it. Pull yourself up. You'll be over it. Screw that guy. Exactly. You know what I mean? You got to have that mentality. And I think a lot of that comes from learning how to lose. When you do lose, what do you do to make yourself better? And I think that's going to carry over into whatever career you have afterwards, which happened to be for you, real estate, which I think you fit in very well in.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think, it correlates. It's like night. It goes together for sure.
And you should get into coaching. There's a lady, I'm not 100% sure if she listens to this or not, but she used to be a coach at WVU, and then kind of similar position as you, had a kid and decided it was too much or whatever. Yeah. She happens to be my daughter's soccer coach now.
Okay.
Cool.
My daughter and her daughter are friends, and all of this happened by luck. And I'm going to give a lot of the credit to my daughter for trying really hard. I'm going to give an equal amount of credit to her for coaching and volunteering. And,
absolutely.
That's amazing.
Watching her, we spent this past weekend with her. She's an amazing person. She loves the sport. She loves to get back. She gets into it, man. It's great. And I could see you falling in that role someday. As your son gets older, I guarantee you, whatever sport it is, you're going to be there with him.
Oh, yeah. And, I'm super passionate. You guys have only seen me in this playing field. So, like, when it comes to sports now it's like a light switch went off, right? So now it's a different side
That's
of it.
That's awesome.
Nikki, I'm sending you this. Thank you.
No, when you were talking about earlier about your family making films and releasing them, that's when it clicked to me. I'm like, real estate, that makes perfect sense. Like dropping, as far as marketing is concerned, what I mean? Which I think is one of your strong suits. Your marketing is amazing.
I appreciate it.
God, you're a marketing pro. The stuff you
there's
got.
A lot of credit that goes to our, P. Parker Shepard. He's our real estate photographer, shoots all of our content, all of our videos. So his team is phenomenal. But they're
Brittany, working with you.
Yeah. And
so like it, and I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm saying to me it clicked where like you had already done this before. Yeah, but it's just in a different aspect of life.
100%. No, you're doing phenomenal. Tell us about your real estate career. I mean, you're killing it in Morgantown. You're selling a ton of houses. Yeah. You broke in the Deep Creek market with us a couple years ago. You're selling a lot of houses here. Your Facebook advertising. I'm not on any other social medias, and to be honest with you, I don't do my own social media. But it's legit, and I can tell watching this. How long have you been a realtor?
So I've only been in it for going on 2 years, but going on my third year. Brittany's been in it.
I would have guessed like 10 years in, and you're rocking all kinds of records. And you got to give Brittany some credit here too. Well, go ahead and bring her. If you don't bring her into this, she's going to be mad, but she deserves it.
All the credit. So, and I give a lot of credit to Raleigh Realty as well too, because whenever I first came in, even though the states, is different from what we can do in Maryland versus West Virginia, but the training aspect that we get at Raleigh is phenomenal. So
agreed.
Definitely that has helped propel me a lot, and I've been able to take a lot from guys like you, John, Nick, Nina, and able to, kind of apply it to what I do in West Virginia. But Brittany, so Brittany was in the game and killed it her first year, knocked it out of the park. And that's what also played a huge role into me getting out of coaching and kind of, going into real estate. I always had a love for real estate, but my thing for real estate is I wanted to do something totally different. But we'll kind of get into that here in a little bit. But Brittany is phenomenal at what she does. And the fact that, number one, she's my life partner and business partner, to be able to learn from her and ask her questions every single day and just to have her right there kind of fast-tracked my success, I think. And
sure, that's great.
I'm a firm believer of two minds working together on a common goal are better than one, just because we're able to bounce different ideas amongst each other, different game plans. So she's definitely a huge part of my success and our success for sure.
And you guys have to think about, I don't know, small leagues. What do we have at Deep Creek? 200 realtors? You know what I mean?
Probably,
so we have a smaller pool here. I don't know how many realtors you're competing against in Morgantown. There's
in
probably
North,
1,000.
Yeah, it's close to 1,000. I think it's like 900 some.
And you broke your way
just
in that market
Morgantown.
that fast.
That's probably
North Central West Virginia.
North
North
Central
West Virginia. Yeah.
I've been emailing Dwayne Johnson like literally 7 times a day. Yeah,
that's what I.
and he won't get back to me. Like I bet you I email him 7 times a day, probably 17 times.
What's
a
the
day
subject
some days.
line?
Ballers. Is it legit? Okay, so to set this up, Ballers, I like series.
No, I love the.
I'm going to tell you, I think it is the best series I've ever watched. If you haven't watched Ballers, it's on HBO. Watch it. If you're into football, it's better. If you're not into football, I'm gonna tell you it's the best show ever created ever. Okay, Dwayne Johnson's the star. If you haven't seen it, is that what it's really like?
I was just gonna say I can't say that it's 100% like Ballers, but there's a lot of things that you see.
It's got some Hollywood in it too, but
but there's the lifestyle that these players live, and unfortunately, the amount of money some of these players spend. So that's how it it definitely relates in that aspect for sure. But the Hollywood lifestyle, the Miami, obviously the show's based out of Miami.
Yeah.
It's a crazy
You
show.
remind me a little Ricky Jarrod. I mean, you're back here in the field, I can see it. Have you two watched the show?
No.
Oh,
but I'll put it on my list because I'll be a good.
In a good way. Ricky has some bad parts. I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about the good parts, the on the field parts.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've been looking for a new show.
No, I do think he'll finally eventually email me back. We're on it. He's going to come on the show.
Well, you shouldn't. I mean, the marketing
Jay-Z
trick
first.
right now is you put re or forward in your message.
What?
So when you send him the email, you put re like you're replying to his email.
Oh,
that's a marketing tactic. Yeah, to get people to open it because they see that and they're like, I don't remember emailing Jarrod.
Right.
And then I open it and it's a open house.
I put that on my hand mailers too.
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess the email address I have is not accurate. So speaking of which, it's just kind of funny. We were going through my daughter's phone the other day, and she had Googled what's Kenny Chesney's number. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so that's how I got Dwayne Johnson's email.
You're like, that's genius. Why didn't I think of that?
Right. So I don't think she got the right number, but she's looking for Kenny Chesney. If anybody has it, let me know.
Yeah, you heard it here.
Okay, so I lost track of time. Keeping up with season 1 endings, we do have a few questions to ask you, Kristen.
Absolutely.
He did get a little preparation, so he knows they're coming.
Yeah,
he has listened to the podcast before, so he knows what to expect.
What's your best Honi Honi story?
So, Brittany and I were actually talking about that today. Believe it or not, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? That was Brittany and I's first date. We met at the Honi Honi. So, this is when I had moved back to Maryland. She was in Morgantown. First date, first time really out in public together, and we met at the Honi Honi, kind of like middle ground. Had
between Frostburg and Morgantown.
Frostburg and Morgantown.
Nice.
Met there, and I didn't even put 2 and 2 together until I texted Kristen today just to kind of get some preparation if there were going to be any surprise questions, and she told me that was one of them.
Pop quiz.
And I told Britt, I was like, I'm trying to think of like my favorite Honi Honi memory, and I'm driving, so I feel like she's kind of like glaring at me out of the corner of her eye, and she's like, well, that was our first date. And I was like, oh, shit.
Thanks, babe.
That's what happened in place for a first date. What did you have to drink? Do you remember?
I think I just was drinking a beer maybe.
Yeah. Did you get food?
We got food.
Was it summer? Like, were you outside?
Summer, okay.
It was summer.
Where's she from? Does she live around here?
So she is originally from Vegas.
Oh, no kidding.
She moved to West Virginia in high school, finished up her high school years in Hundred, West Virginia, which Hundred is like a very small town. It's like all oil and gas. And then she went to college at West Virginia, and I met her in college in 2012. Brittany's actually 5 years older than me, so met her in college. We were we're friends in college, stayed in contact. And then, that's kind of, the rest is history. Now, 4 years later, we have a 2-year-old, and
a business,
a whole business.
All because of the Honi.
Yeah, all because of the Honi Honi.
Hey,
shout out to the Honi
made
Honi.
it. 5
years older than you. I just had the urge to go, ooh, go Brittany.
I was gonna make it like a meow, like a cougar.
She always says she robbed the cradle.
So apparently that's what 5th graders do when you talk about boyfriends and girlfriends in class. They go, ooh, whatever, right? So my daughter came home the other day and was telling me a story, and now they're in 6th grade, and they don't do that anymore, but they did it, and they got made fun of.
Well, that's because in 5th grade, you're top of the class. 6th grade, you're
back
fresh.
to the bottom.
Yeah.
8th grade was the best grade for that reason. I feel like you never beat 8th grade top of the world feeling.
Yeah.
For sure.
Unless you peak in high school, then I guess you had a good time in 12th grade.
No, that's a great story.
I didn't.
You guys met there.
Yeah.
You actually met in college, then got together after college.
First date.
So she knew you first and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, what was the next question?
What are you salty about? There's got to
Rain.
be something.
I'm
Traffic,
trying to think, like,
rain, snow.
It hasn't snowed yet.
I'm kind of actually, you know what I'm salty about? I'm excited, but I'm salty about it. And I'm an early riser as it is.
Yeah.
I'm up at normally like 4:15 every day, go to the gym by 5, but
What?
Our flight-
7 days a week? 5, 4, or what?
5, just Monday through Friday.
Okay.
But our flight tomorrow to go to Houston for the game is at 6:30, so I'm actually pretty salty that I have to wake up and we have to leave like at 4 o'clock and go to the airport.
So that's the
Yeah.
difference. You have to.
That's
When they
15
say you
minutes.
have to, you
15
gotta
minutes
go.
is going to kill. That's
Well,
funny.
no. It's not me that I'm going to be salty about. It's going to be getting Brittany up in the morning and getting her in motion because she's not an early riser at all.
I thought you were gonna bring up daylight savings time because I
did
also get
too.
up at 4:30 and I'm thinking to myself, I can't wait until like I get daylight at like 6 o'clock again. Like,
It is so dark in the morning.
I know, and it's been foggy too. At least in Friendsville,
Yeah, it's been foggy.
eternally foggy.
Yeah.
So you're keeping that workout regimen. You're getting up every morning, 5 days a week, and still doing it.
And that's another thing too, like that football, like I'm such a routine guy, and it's probably because so many years, you had a routine, right? So like in college, I always wanted to be the early group working out because I just wanted to get my workout done. And not only did I realize like, okay, I like waking up early because you can get a lot accomplished, but like the workout from a mental standpoint and just like a clarity standpoint, it's like it helps me tremendously. So
It's the best way to start your day.
yeah,
I agree.
I agree 100%.
Working out in the afternoon or the evening is literally
And
torture.
then you have
It
to
is the
fight
worst.
everyone else that is getting there after work, and you have to wait 5,
Well, it's your
10
you
minutes to
time.
use the machine.
You got a
Yeah.
time to start.
That's where I like waking up early is because, up until I started getting up, progressively earlier, I'd have a shower in the morning and that was the only time I had by myself for the
To
whole
yourself
day.
to really just
Whatever,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm
and
with
then
you.
you throw a kid in.
Oh, I
into the
know.
mix, 2-year-old
Yeah,
that
yeah.
thankfully Zaire sleeps great throughout the
so
night.
your
So does
biceps
Lucy.
prove that you work out. I've been staring at them for an hour now.
Oh my God.
And I'm salty because I can't read what your tattoo says. I've been trying to read it. For like
Strength
an
in
hour.
here. I have a Bible verse.
What is it?
So though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil.
Did you get that? How old were you when you got? Well, obviously more than 18.
I was
Okay.
so my very first tattoo on my left shoulder, and remember to my mom, I got whenever I was 18. My dad let me get that. My dad was super against tattoos. I'll just say that first and foremost. Then kind of like my brother was like the one that kind of break through.
Yeah.
Right? Like he was
He got the first
one to get
tattoo.
his
Yeah.
ear pierced, first one to get a tattoo.
Older brother?
Older brother, yeah,
Yeah.
6 years older than me. And then, I always got backlash from him because he's like, "Oh, you got it so easy, bro. Like, dad just let you do whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, I mean, you're the one that really kind of like set the stage and, broke through. So thank you." But so I have quite a bit of tattoos, but I feel that every one of my I would never put anything on my body just to say like I have a tattoo. Everything has sentimental value to me. And they kind of tell a story. So
I've got two things on my
Like
bucket list.
Maui.
yeah.
Yeah.
Two things on my bucket list. One, I want to get baptized. I've already promised my mom. She brings up every single time I talk to her recently. And two, I want to get a tattoo. But my problem with tattoos is I can't make up my mind. And it does get back to football. So me and my friend Jay, junior, senior year, whatever, went to go get tattoos after football practice, right? That'd have been senior year. We were going to get No Fear.
Yeah.
And Jay, if I remember correctly, you got it and I backed out.
Oh my God.
Okay, I thought this was the one. I thought you were going to tell us how you want to get it removed.
No, sorry, buddy. I did not get No Fear tattooed on my arm. And at 18 years old, that seemed like a really cool tattoo to get.
Yeah.
At 46, I'm very happy I don't
you
have
don't,
No
right.
Fear tattooed on my arm. So that's my
Yeah.
problem. I've just got to come up with something like the one about your mom and on your arm. It makes sense. I just got to find something I care enough about it and kind of make it funny too. I was in Las Vegas one time and I went to the Vince Neil studio and I had the same conversation there with a friend of mine. I was like, I'm getting a tattoo. I'm going to do it. We had just had the kids. The girls were younger. And I go in there and I give the guy the $250 to draw it up and tell him what I want. And I want something that has my daughter's names in it and a good dad tattoo.
Yeah.
And then we go out drinking. And then I come back.
Every good story starts with that.
And man, I'm telling you, this thing had like my daughter's names in it, so he nailed that part. The rest of it was like pink and flowers and dolphins and butterflies and stuff. And he was going to put it right here on my arm. And I remember I took a picture of it and sent it to my sister-in-law, and she was like, I don't know how drunk you are, but you do not get that tattoo.
And for the record, I never see you wear long sleeves, so that would have sucked. You would have been like buttoned up the rest of your life.
Great. Mine would have been like pink and blues, and I'm very picky on tattoos. I'll get it figured out.
Because once it's there, I mean, it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
And they say that to get it removed hurts even more than to get a tattoo. So
it should. If you're going to do it, you got to commit.
So all our listeners out there.
Yeah.
We have a friend that got one. I think I'm going to do it this way. A friend of ours went to Thailand and actually had it done with like the needle thing.
Well,
like,
Lee
I
had it done that. Yeah.
That sounds cool to me. I would do that.
That is pretty cool, yeah.
So we're probably well over an hour. Dude, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on episode 1, season 2.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for wearing our hat last year on your birthday.
So easy for us. I felt like that gelled well to get us back where we, get us started.
Great radio voice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, that should be your other career.
If you're interested in buying or selling real estate in the Deep Creek Lake area or Morgantown. West Virginia, hit us up. We'll put your link on the bottom of the website thingy, and Kristen will do all the
stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate it.